Hello and welcome to CertiPay's 10-Minute Trainer Series. Today we're going to talk about the FFCRA extension as it is in the new stimulus. So thank you for joining us today. We are glad you're with us. So the FFCRA was expanded under the new stimulus package. It originally ended at the end of 2020, only now it is an optional leave available with a tax credit through the end of the first quarter. So the paid leave can be eligible for tax incentives and credits all the way through March 31st. The difference is now it's optional. So if you choose to add the FFCRA paid leave for your employees, you can still receive the tax credits on your 941 for any of those wages paid through the first quarter. So some of the differences are, it is a continuation of the same bucket of hours. So it's not a new bank of hours available. Whatever hours were used in 2020, that total continues. So you cannot give somebody paid leave under FFCRA beyond those totals. So for example, if somebody was out sick for 1 week and received 40 hours of COVID full pay in 2020, then they would still have 40 hours remaining under the FFCRA platform if you chose to continue it. So that is something you want to take a look at. Now, keep in mind that the tax incentives are only available for private employers. The public sector, government offices do not have any tax incentives or credits available if they would like to do any kind of paid leave. So let me remind you that you are allowed to pay people paid leave for coronavirus reasons, but under this FFCRA guideline, only private sector employers will be eligible for the credit. And the same requirements as before apply. That is the under 500 threshold, under 500 employee count threshold. So it's optional and the total hours carry over. So if you do choose to use it, you've got to follow the same rules that were in place before. So quick overview, and then we'll dig in just for a brief second. 500 employers or less, and under the paid leave provision, it doesn't matter how long somebody works for you, they could be eligible for the paid leave. Under the expanded FMLA portion, which is that extra 10-week available for partial pay for caring for somebody else, the employee has to be one of your employees for a minimum of 30 days before they would be eligible for that expanded leave. As I mentioned, the 80 hours of paid leave is the cap, and it's 80 hours is the cap, but when you calculate hours for your employees, you use an average. So if somebody only works 30 hours per week, then they're actually only eligible for 60 hours total. So you're using an average number of hours per employee and an average of the pay. When you calculate how much do I pay this individual, you're looking at an average for calculating an hourly rate for that individual. And let's say you're a restaurant, you will calculate base hourly rate, commissions, bonus, and tip dollars when you calculate the average rate to be paid under FFCRA. So when we talk about full pay, that's for the individual person. Partial pay is if your employee is caring for somebody else. So we'll dig in just a second there to make sure it's nice and clear. So for full pay, you've got your actual employee has been quarantined, told by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, or is actually sick and test positive for COVID. So when somebody has symptoms or seeking medical attention, or they've been told to quarantine, it actually is affecting your employee. That's when it's COVID full pay. And if somebody is caring for somebody else, for example, an employee has to care for an individual who is sick with COVID, or your employee has a child care issue where their child's normal child care provider is unavailable, or their school is closed, or their daycare center is closed, that individual employee would be eligible for 2/3 pay, and that's capped at $200 a day. So you've got full pay and partial pay. And if you are using CertiPay for your payroll, we have these codes set up for you, the C19 full pay and C19 partial pay codes. So you can use those through the first quarter of 2021 under the FFCRA. Again, you have to choose to use this. It's not, you don't have to, it is no longer mandatory. So if you decide to use the FFCRA, you're going to keep all the same, follow all the same regulations that were in place originally in 2020 when that act came out. But you will still be eligible for these tax credits. So it applies both to the full pay, to the expanded FMLA, and then you take that credit dollar for dollar right against your 941. As you're preparing it, you just subtract the wages paid under FFCRA, and you get that right back on your quarterly 941. So just some quick final thoughts. The FFCRA is now optional. It is available to private employers with an employee count of under 500, and it is available through March 31st. So those tax credits can be taken for wages paid under FFCRA through March 31st. Document as you would. We always recommend using the FFCRA paid leave form that we've created with CertiPay, and send us a quick message if you need a copy of that form. We're happy to help you. There are no required forms under the Department of Labor or the IRS, but we encourage you to document any reason that somebody is out on leave, especially if you are taking the tax credits for that. If there's ever an audit or you're asked for backup documentation, you will have it. So it's always a good practice to have documentation and be consistent. So if you decide that as a business owner, you would like to continue the FFCRA, offer it to everybody and keep it in place through the end of March, following all of the same guidelines that were in place before. Finally, do the best you can. We are here to help you. CertiPay can answer your questions. We always have your back. So if you need more information about the FFCRA, or if you need some help with this, please reach out to us. We are here for you, and we are glad you're here and paying attention to these important guidelines. Thank you very much for joining us, and look for some more of our coffee breaks and 10-minute trainers. And we're looking forward to a great 2021. Thank you very much.